So I would like, on behalf of the Infinitech project and the also Hellenic Blockchain Hub and Finance Innovation, Hellenic Blockchain Hub in Greece and Finance Innovation that helped a lot with the communication of this event and the organization, I would like to welcome you on this a short blockchain applications for digital finance workshop on cryptocurrencies. And I think Ernesto Troya, Infinitech project, to say a few words and give a short welcome for this workshop. So please, Ernesto.
Yeah, thank you, John, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to this workshop dedicated to the blockchain application for digital finance. I'm Ernesto Troiano. I'm the project manager and coordinator on behalf of a company named GFT to manage the Infinitech project, which is an innovation action funded by the European Commission. Basically, the Infinitech is about demonstrating innovative solution in big data, AI, IoT, and also blockchain technologies. We have more than 15 pilots, demonstrators, tens of use cases that will be approached with the state-of-the-art technologies and methodologies. That what is the project about. I will invite you also to have a look at our communication, the website, and everything. Infinitech is a joint effort of more than 15 partners from ICT and end users in the finance sector. So we are specifically dedicated to the finance and insurance sector, and we will try to solve this problem, boosting this new technology, mainly blockchain. So today we have a representative from our project and also expert from the blockchain domain, and I welcome all of the speakers and also the attendees to really enjoy this workshop and to feedback us. So please participate, please ask questions, please raise questions and your hands. You have all the tools, and we will ask you to fill a form in order that we will get your feedback about this workshop that will help us to better tailor our project. So thank you very much. We'll leave the floor to John and the other speakers that they will introduce themselves, and I really wish you a joyful also workshop. Thank you all. Bye. John, again, back to you.
Thank you very much, Ernesto.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ernesto. I will try to give a very short introduction to the topic. I hope you can see my presentation to see where we stand and where we go. So actually, this workshop is dedicated to blockchain in digital finance, but beyond cryptocurrencies. We are living in an era, in a year, 2021, where again, our currencies, especially like Bitcoin, Ethereum, is booming. The market capitalization exceeded $1 trillion earlier this year. Of course, there is this volatility. Then we've seen large prices, top enterprises like Tesla entering into the game, buying Bitcoins, and you know, certainly it's a huge. We can safely say nowadays that blockchain technologies in the cryptocurrencies setting is certainly a big success. No matter the angle you see it, market capitalization, interest, engagement of players, expectations that it is characterized as digital world, even number of transactions. I don't know if most of you know, but the transactions we have in the Bitcoin network every day are more than the transactions in Apple Pay, for example, something that we consider mainstream. So yeah, of course there are some special considerations in cryptocurrency, but certainly we can safely say, okay, we don't know if it's going to be the position or if it's never going to become, for storing value or for doing transactions. But in my opinion, it doesn't matter. It is already a success, even if it never gets to the pole position. At the same time, we have still vivid interest around blockchain technology. So there has been some nation in 2018, but throughout all these years, there are investments in startup, equity, and so on. So if we talk about blockchain applications beyond cryptocurrencies, we have to think when it is a good idea. And this criteria. You can get value out of decentralization. When you need to do things with multiple parties that do not necessarily trust each other, they need to on a certain, they don't necessarily trust each other. They cannot find a trusted third party to. So in that, it's usually a good idea to resort to blockchain technology. Of course, if you can be happy with the decentralization and find solutions there, I think that, yes, you can always live without a block. So motivated by this, we are seeing blockchain technology using in a lot of digital finance. I have here is actually a list where you can find startups, you can find business cases implemented, and so on. Of course, the scale remains to be seen, but these are themes that are still, at the forefront of digital finance. So, for example, having more efficient cross-border payments, faster transactions, real-time settlements in stock exchange transactions. I want to remind you, all of you that are in this sector. We have a lot of people here from banks that during the previous month we had this, GameStop Robinhood case. Remember, with the intervention of the regulators. So this was a strange story, but one of the outcomes of this was, and the conclusions is that. No matter we like it or not, the regulation system is still, a little bit outdated and does not account for the speed and the IT tools we have nowadays, where everybody can trade from anywhere. So another use case is automatic trading through smart contracts, setting rules for going short, going long. All this can be automated. There are use cases on crowdfunding and initial coin offerings without third party, like we have Kickstarter or other companies. Later on, we'll talk about know your customer, know your business use cases and their relationship to anti-money laundering and customer sending analytics. It's a useful technology for auditors in a variety of settings, or wherever we want to exchange assets, like real estate, like electronic notaries. There you can have a blockchain for auditing reconciliations, and you can do this in a trusted way without a third party. And two use cases that we are also explored in the context of the Infinitech project is also data sharing for various purposes like credit risk assessment and collaborative risk assessment. So having said that, I'm going to go straight to our speakers today that are going to present 4 applications in Infinitech. And these concern consent management, blockchain tokenization, and what power this can unblock in different use cases, KYC, as I said before, and later on, how you can explore blockchain graphs in order to identify potentially fraudulent activities. Remember, this is one thing in Bitcoin and Ethereum that prevents wider adoption. It's one of the criticisms against blockchain. So that's our agenda for today. So we can go straight to the presentation from Dimitris Miltiadou from Infinitech. And we are going to have some short, very short breaks, 5-minute breaks. In the end, we have some short buffer time. So, 20 minutes where you'll be able to ask questions to all the speakers. And also we will administer to you some form, and we will really like to have your feedback. Feel free to write what you feel, what you think. It will take a few minutes, and it's going to be very helpful for us. And maybe in the end, we will tell you about some other workshops on digital finance that we have in our series. So some are very interesting are coming, for example, especially on topics of machine learning and artificial intelligence, for credit risk assessment, personalized investments. Next one is in 2 weeks, and it's in the same method, free registration. So having said all that, I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pass the floor to Dimitris. I will ask Dimitris to open his camera and every speaker, and so we can continue the workshop. Of course, you can ask questions after each presentation, but you can also save questions for the discussion slot. Again, 10, 20 minutes short discussion. In the end, we want this workshop to be short. So thank you very much. That's all from my side. Again, special thanks to Hellenic Blockchain Hub and Finance Innovation for helping with the organization of this workshop. Dimitris, we can see your screen.
Thank you, John. Hello, everyone from my side also. I'm Dimitris Miltiadou from Infinitech. I will be presenting our approach on decentralized management of consent. First of all, why we need the financial institution needs the customer's consent. As you all know from the PSD2 directive and the GDPR, of course, regulation, there are several initiatives on how we can approach open banking. And in all of these, as it's also mentioned by core analysts in the industry, the customer is at its core and in control of their banking data. They are able to authorize their party to access their bank account data and collect account information. And of course, in order to properly implement in harmony both PSD2 and GDPR, there is also the need for the consent of the customers. So what is consent management? Consent management is the process of managing consent from the customers in order to process their personal data. It involves the tracking, monitoring, and management of the personal data lifecycle from the moment of opt-in to data erase in accordance to GDPR. What it gives the customer also control over their data, enable them to the right to provide and at any time withdraw their consent, which allows the party to access their personal and business information. To achieve this, we need granular permission consent in order to enable the trust of the customers to share their data and enable third parties to access them and process them. When it comes to the digital consent management system in the industry, there are 3 major, let's say, if we could say, types. The first one being a standalone and centralized consent management system that acts as a standalone application, and it provides all the functionalities around the consent management lifecycle. Another type is the one being a centralized system, but integrated with existing organization systems like CRMs, and utilizing the resources of these existing organization systems. The third approach is let's say a distributed federated approach with solution with different components and instances reside in a number of locations, and of course these distributed instances are synchronized over the network. What is, in this case, the role of blockchain based on our approach? Blockchain, as you all know, is a compelling technology that enables to overcome the underlying challenges in order to improve the trust based on its decentralized nature, immutability, and it provides extensibility, scalability, confidentiality, flexibility, and as we all know, the key point is its resilience to attacks and misuse. Through blockchain, we have transaction records that are immutable and are reserved forever. This enables the full transactional history that is maintained, and all records are cryptographically secure. So what is blockchain bringing to our solution is that it guarantees the integrity, transparency, and trustworthiness of data. Our solution is a decentralized blockchain-enabled consent management mechanism that it will enable the customers to share their consent in order to exchange and utilize customer data across different banking institutions. It enables the financial institution to effectively manage and share their customers' consent in a transparent and ambiguous manner. Through our solution, the financial institutions are capable of storing the consents, having the complete update history of the consents in using consents versioning in a secure and trusted manner. Now I will just want to focus on two basic and two core scenarios that our solution can be used. And the first one is about the consent management lifecycle management. As you see here, we have three main stakeholders: the bank institution that has the CMS application with enabled with blockchain, an external financial institution that would like to request for access to data of the bank's customer, which is the third stakeholder. So a typical scenario would be for a consent, the financial institution will initiate a request to the bank in order to access the customer data. The bank will have to pre-approve this request, of course, in order to have an overview of the request reaching their clients and avoid misuse of the system. Once this is pre-approved, the customer is notified and receives the request. He is able to review and digitally sign the consent. And once this is done, then the financial institution is informed in order also to review and digitally sign the consent. Upon the digital signatures of both involved parties, then this digitally signed consent is written in blockchain. And at this point, in order to be also GDPR compliant, the customer at any point can update or withdraw the consent. And of course, at any point, he can retrieve the complete history of consents that he has given. This concludes, let's say, a consent creation scenario. And what we have from our solution that it offers, it ensures compliance both to PSD and GDPR. It facilitates the complete consent management life cycle. It increases, of course, trust and security through the blockchain, and also provides a user-friendly and easy-to-use solution for the banking institution. When it comes to the second basic scenario, it's about data sharing and access control. On this scenario, again, the customer has already given the consent. So what happens here is that the financial institution requests access to customers' data. The bank is notified and consults the CMS app in order to formulate a decision. The CMS app formulates a decision based on the latest consents written in blockchain. Based on this, it provides to the bank the ability to check if this access should be approved or not. So on the last step, the bank is able to approve or reject the data access request based on the feedback retrieved by the CMS app. And in this scenario, we facilitate of course, the effective access control aspect of data sharing towards open banking. We enable the options for industry collaboration, innovative services, financial services implementation. We lower the barriers of secure data sharing, and we improve the data accessibility in a trusted manner. That's all. Now I will switch my screen to perform a short live demo of our solution. Give me a second to switch. Again, give me a second. I will have to share again, but this time I will have to share my screen. I'm guessing now you can see my screen. So let me continue. As I mentioned before, we have three main stakeholders involved. Taking on the first window on the left, we have the Bank of Crete, that is in our scenario, the external financial institution that is requesting an access to the customer data. So what the Bank of Crete can do, of course, he can initiate a new consent request, filling in all the information. That is, let me mention at this point, we are following the Encantara initiative for the standardization of the consent requests. So all the information for the consent are provided to the banking institution. At this point, as you see, there are different statuses. This request will reach the bank in order to pre-approve before this consent is then forwarded to the customer. Once the customer has reviewed the consent, as I mentioned on my slides, then the external financial institution can approve and digitally sign also the request. At any point, the Bank of Crete, which is the external financial institution, can review a consent. As you see here, this is an active consent because it has been approved by both parties. Switching to the customer, on the right, we have a customer of the bank that receives the request once they are pre-approved by the bank. As you see here, this is pre-approved. When it's pre-approved, he's able to review and change anything on the consent. He can either reject, of course, this request or approve by pressing reviewed. And of course, he can see the whole list and retrieve at any point any consent. Now, the third part is the, of course, involved stakeholders. In our scenario, the Bank of Greece, which is the bank receiving the request from external financial institutions. They can have an overview of the whole, the list of consents as received for their customers. They are able, of course, for the ones received to pre-approve and then reach or reject, of course, and then reach the customer. They are able to see all the consents for all their customers by any external financial institution and for any customer. And when it comes to data sharing access control, at this point, several options are given to the bank, as for example, searching for a specific consent. I'll do some example here, quick example. So this is retrieved. If I want to see all the consents retrieved from a financial institution, then I can also initiate a search to see, for example, our example here, external user ID 3 is the Bank of Crete. So I see all the consents for all my customers retrieved. Then if I need to see for a specific customer, I can also search for the consents for a specific customer. And of course, I can even go through a specific consent between an external financial institution and a customer. In all of these interactions for all stakeholders, this graphical user interface is interacting with the blockchain on the background, ensuring that all information is fed through the blockchain records and are displayed to the users in order to facilitate all the operations. That's all for from the demo. Also, I think now I can pause for some questions.
Okay, can we start with the question?
Questions to Dimitri?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Well, this
Open your camera. If possible. Okay, no, you don't want to. It's okay.
I don't hear you. Okay, John. Sorry. Well, I will go with the question. It's Jose Gato from Atos. So, in this dashboard, it is supposed that you are as a Bank of Greece, right?
Mhm.
So you can see the interaction or the request that you have between Bank of Greece and other customers, right? But you can also see requests from other different banks to other customers. You can see everything happening between the different banks and the different customers. So it's like a super user that can see everything.
Yeah, Jose, the thing is that for this, if you recall my diagram, I can even share again. Perhaps it's better to share give me a second to switch to the PowerPoint because I have the diagram that could answer your question. Give me a second to stop sharing here and share again my PowerPoint. Give me a second. Okay, let me switch also to, okay. So I guess you can see the diagram. So we have the bank, which is Bank of Greece, which uses this consent management system, and we have external financial institutions requesting access to Bank of Greece customers. So in the screen that showed on the list, I can see all the requests from any financial institution that has requested for my customers. So I have a complete list, and I say that Bank of Greece or Bank of Piraeus or whatever bank other has requested for any the consent to get data from any of my customers. But my customers, of course, it's not a centralized system. If you mean that we can see multiple banks.
Okay.
It's not this. It doesn't work in this way, of course, because I don't know if it's feasible, of course, for other banks to see the consents made by other financial institutions on other banks. If this was your question.
Yes. Yes. Sure.
No.
Yes.
This gives the opportunity for a bank to use this system in order to have a complete consent lifecycle management for the consent for her customers.
Okay. So the blockchain in this case, the blockchain is shared between different banks and these financial institutions.
It's actually, you can say that it can be used within a bank for different within the same bank that has different departments, let's say, or different I can't find the word. Say that we have different shops, bank institutions running on different areas, but on the same bank, they can use this decentralized management system to have it all the consents in one place. But not with, we have not foreseen using different connecting. Yes, John.
I guess that with this system, if there is a
We lost you. We cannot hear you. Okay,
yes, John, I hardly hear you.
Now,
maybe switch off the camera to have better.
Maybe better.
Seems so.
Yeah. So I would like to ask, with this system, however, if there is some conflict or some debate on consents and compliance to GDPR or whether to consents in PSD2, I can prove the regulator that I've done things properly or not.
Yes,
It can be used as an auditing tool to extract and give information to the regulator. So, for example, you can say that, okay, this customer gave me this consent, and this is written on the blockchain. So this is one question, and another on the same that I would like to ask. Maybe it's good to explain what kind of blockchain system is this. It's not a public blockchain, right?
No.
It's a permission
it's a
blockchain.
permission.
So it's a restricted blockchain to a group of participants. So this was not clear in the presentation. If you can say a few things, it would help, I believe.
Yes. This is a permissioned, let's say, network, blockchain network based on Fabric, as you said. So the idea is that the nodes will reside on different shops of a bank, but of the same bank. And this way we have the blockchain network set, and it can be used for from all the departments of the bank residing in different areas. For example, having this blockchain network in order, as John mentioned, to have the complete history of consent, not only the let's say the last status. So in terms of auditing, we can go back to the complete history by querying the blockchain, and also in terms of when it comes to a new data sharing request, as I also explained, at any point immediately we can formulate a decision if there is a consent, an active consent between the customer and the financial institution asking for the customer's data in order to give them access. So this is this of course solves all these issues and in a trusted and secure manner.
Okay, are there any, maybe we can take one more question if needed, otherwise we can save it for later and move on. It's just in time for the next presentation on where we will hear about asset tokenization, and generally we will hear about tokenization in blockchain, which is a very important topic and unblocks many interesting opportunities. So I don't know if there is any other question at this point, or if we can save the question for later and go on the tokenization presentation. Thank you, Dimitris, anyway. Is there any question from the audience? Okay, so let's move to the next presentation by IBM, Fabiana.
Thank you, John. I will start my video, and also bear with me 1 minute, and so I can start with a short movie that will give an overview, let's say a glance to what we're doing in the scope of the Infinitech project. So let me share 1 second.
Now we can see, yes, we start seeing.
Great.
We're going to explain how tokens and blockchain are transforming fintech. Tokenization, or the digitization of assets on an immutable ledger, opens up a world of new possibilities, ranging from improving the efficiency of today's processes to the creation of new asset classes and trading opportunities. Essentially, a token is a digital representation of ownership of an asset, entitlement to a service, or some combination of these. This asset can refer to any type of goods or services that can be digitized, including earning streams, ownership rights, limited use rights, servicing rights, and many others. What makes tokens so beneficial for financial institutions is that as a digital representation of an asset, they can be minted, traded, and transferred between parties or businesses directly without the participation of a trusted third party in between. This greatly reduces the friction involved in the usual trading process, and it translates directly into advantages such as increased liquidity, faster settlements, lower costs, and better risk management. Even private securities or illiquid assets like fine art can be tokenized and traded on the financial marketplace, so a much larger audience of investors can access them. Infinitech is an EU-funded consortium aimed at bringing blockchain tokenization to insurance and financial organizations. Here's why. Today, most financial assets use centralized control. Everyone has to trust the controlling entity 100%. This renders your company vulnerable, inefficient, and prone to risk. Ideally, the control over financial assets should be decentralized, like blockchain. With blockchain, there's no centralized control or trusted third party required. The data is append only after consensus and is tamper-proof and immutable. Every participant holds a copy of the ledger, and provenance exists for every transaction and asset. There are several kinds of blockchain. permission blockchain is one kind that's closed and not open to everyone, making it especially relevant for enterprises and financial institutions. Any organization joining the permission blockchain needs to be explicitly admitted as a stakeholder of the blockchain network. Hyperledger Fabric is a permissioned open source blockchain developed by the Linux Foundation and is considered the leading blockchain platform for enterprises. It's also the platform that was chosen by the Infinitech consortium. The problem is, or was, that the Hyperledger Fabric didn't have native functionality to support tokens and the digital trading of assets. The thing is, blockchain is a natural platform for tokenization because of its innate features. A solution that combines blockchain and tokenization gives us all the advantages of a financial ledger that is immutable, has no centralized control, and uses a chain of transactions that can't be tampered with. For this reason, it's the perfect basis for implementing a token marketplace where all the transactions and account balances are securely stored and accounted for. The Infinitech project built a layer on top of Hyperledger Fabric to enable simple and secure tokenization for insurance companies and financial institutions. To make things compliant with a token economy, we added functionality to meet the ERC20 standard for financial tokens. As a result, our platform allows any enterprise to mint tokens, trade them and transfer tokens, keep track of the balance, and ensure no double spending. Let's look at what you can do with tokens on blockchain. Your business can use the Infinitech tokenization solution to trade and transfer tokens on the stock exchange. For example, say Bank A has 3,000 coffee bean tokens, and Bank C has 5,000 salmon tokens. Based on its value in the token economy market, Bank A can trade 2,000 coffee bean tokens for 1,000 salmon tokens. Your business can also save company data or analytical insights from data on the chain and trade it or sell it for tokens in the data marketplace. Here you can see Bob's company selling information to Alice's company for the equivalent of $1,000. In short, blockchain brings decentralization, trust, transparency, non-repudiation, and security to your financial processes. Tokens enable the selling and trading of any assets in the chain, allowing for faster and cheaper transactions, greater liquidity, better risk management, and the ability to exploit the benefits of blockchain. Hyperledger Fabric is now equipped to offer tokens on top of it, giving you all of these exciting advantages. Contact us to find out how tokens can bring your company added value.
Thank you very much. Now let me go back to share my presentation, and also I open the camera. 1 second. So I hope you can see now my presentation. Hello again. This is Fabiana Fournier from the IBM Research Lab in Haifa. And together with me participate in the Infinitech project, Ina Skarbowski and Well Sharma. And in the next 15 minutes, I will try to give you some examples of what we can do with tokens, and also talk a little bit of one of the applications we are currently working on in the scope of the project. So I hope that the video that we have just watched gave you some insight on the potential that tokens bring to the financial market. And let's see what we have actually done. As you have also heard from the movie, we started with the implementation of the ERC20 standard. The ERC20 standard is the most popular and prevalent token standard. It provides 6 functions and 2 events. The functions are the following ones. I will very briefly go over them, and then I will bring examples to show what we can do. So first of all, the first function is the total supply, which returns the amount of tokens in existence in the network. The balance of returns the amount of tokens existing for a certain account or address. the transfer is the most basic function which enables to move tokens from one account to another. And then we have three functions that combined together enables us to transfer tokens from one account to another by a third account. We first approve an allowance from one account to another. Then the allowance will return the number of tokens that an account is allowed to spend on behalf of a third account. And then we can do this transfer from the allowance to a third party in the chain. So these are the 6 functions inherent in any ERC20 standard. We also added the mint function, which is not part of the ERC20, but it enables us to create new tokens. And then we can play with them, and these new tokens are added both to the total supply of tokens and to the balance of the account that minted the tokens. Not any peer can mint tokens, only the organization with a minter role can mint new tokens. So let's start with simple examples, and then let's see an application. So first thing, let's create some new tokens. Let's assume organization 1 wants to mint 20,000 tokens. Let's assume we have the blockchain network composed of 2 organizations, organization 1 and organization 2. As I said, we first need to check that the organization 1 has the minter role, otherwise it cannot create new tokens. Let's assume organization 1 indeed has the minter role. Then we invoke the mint function with 20,000 tokens. In the blockchain, and the supply will let us know that we have a total of 20,000 tokens in the network, also being from the organization. However, if we take a look at the balances of these 2 accounts, we will see that only organization 1 owns the 20,000 tokens that it minted, while organization 2, in the meantime, owns only 0 tokens. Step 2, let's transfer tokens from organization 1 to organization 2. As I said, this is the basic transaction that enables us to trade assets on the blockchain network. So we invoke the transfer function with the organization 2 address and the amount of 1,000 tokens. Calling the balance of organization 1 will let us know that it now owns only 1,900 tokens. The 1,000 tokens were added to the balance of organization 2. And this is shown by the balances of both organizations. So we minted token, we transfer tokens. Let's assume now that we would like to transfer tokens by a third party from an owner account. So this is the 2-step transactions that compose the workflow. Let's start with that organization 1, first of all, wants to authorize organization 2 to withdraw 400 tokens. Then we will use the approve function. Organization 1 will allow organization 2 or give an allowance of 400 tokens. The allowance will return the amount of 400 tokens that is allowed from organization 1. Now, if we take a look, the balances still remain 19,000 for organization 1 and 1,000 for organization 2, because actually any movement, any transfer has yet been made. Let's now assume that organization 2 wants to transfer 300 tokens from organization 1 to itself. Organization 2 will do that from the allowance it has from organization 1. So we will invoke the transfer from a function, and the balance of will return as the amount of 1,300 tokens that organization 2 now owns, while the 300 tokens were deducted from the organization 1 account. If we query what is the allowance of the organization now from the organization 1, we will see that is only 100, since we deducted 300 out of the 400 it already had. So this is really very examples of things that we can do. Now we have a full recording that shows the tutorial of ERC20 functions, the description of the blockchain infrastructure that we use, and the usage of the chain codes in more sophisticated ways. This is publicly available in this link. The presentation will be available, so you're more than welcome to watch the recording and let us know of any comments that you have. And now what I would like to do is to talk a little bit of recent work that we are doing, in which we combine machine learning algorithms or distributed machine learning with tokenization. And this is actually a collaboration between partner FBA that they bring to the table machine learning and multi-party computation, and IBM that brings to the table tokenization. And let's assume the following scenario, and bear in mind that we start with a relatively simple scenario. We're working on that now in an MVP, but with the hope that will become more sophisticated and mature in the next coming months. So let's assume that we have a series of financial organizations with the objective to devise a system that is able to predict when a transaction is fraudulent, given a sequence of features on the transaction itself. Each entity, each financial organization, as you can see here on the slide, holds a data set of annotated past transactions, X, Y, where X is the vector of features representing the transaction, and Y is the score between 0 and 1, where 0 is the digit transaction and 1 is for sure a fraudulent transaction. A machine learning method is used to construct a fraud detection system in order to predict the probability that a new transaction is fraudulent given its representation X. Now, each entity holds some data. The aim is to establish a collaboration between the organizations in order to benefit from the reciprocal interaction. However, we need to keep in mind that we cannot share the data, as the data contains sensitive information, for example, information on the users, on the customers. However, we could share the insights, the scores, the Ys, and treat them as commodities or assets on a blockchain network. This way, and the machine algorithm works in a manner that iteratively, so at each step it can gain more or improve its accuracy by including more insights to the algorithm. So by collecting insights from other organizations, we can for sure improve the accuracy of the machine learning algorithm. So let's assume now that we have a blockchain network based on the Hyperledger Fabric, which is the, as you have seen, is the blockchain network that was selected by the Infinitech project. And we store these insights on the blockchain. This assures that we have full traceability and provenance of these insights and the usage of the insights. Now, let's assume also that we have a data marketplace in which organizations can buy and sell insights. The tokens will enable this trading of insights. We will reward organizations for sharing their insights based on some kind of functional model, and we will deduct tokens from organization that uses another organization's insights. How we will do that? We will equip the Hyperledger Fabric blockchain that we are using with 3 conceptual modules. We will first have what we call the data policy framework. These smart contracts will enable the specific organizations to be able to specify to what other organizations they are willing to share the data, the insights. What are the rules to be able to see the Ys, the insights? This will be the data policy framework. The data usage audit will give us a full trace of all the usages of all the insights, while the tokens management will enable to manage accounts for token accounts for each of the organizations. And then whenever an organization would like to buy an insight in the data market, first of all, we'll check that this organization can indeed buy that insight according to the policies in the data policy framework. Once it assures that the organization can proceed, then it will make this transfer of tokens when we will reward the organization for bringing the insights and deduct the organization for buying the insights. So as I said, this is something that we're currently working on, and I hope that next time that we will meet, we will have the MVP that we'll be able to show. And with that, I think this is more or less what I wanted to say, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Fabiana. There was actually a question on the chat, answered by Ina, but I don't know if Arnaud would like to ask this question to you, right? Or
let me see. I saw that there was something in the chat. I was not.
But yeah, it's whether the tokens are distinct or you can have different types of tokens in the exchange.
Okay, so the ERC, I don't know, probably this is what Ina I also answered, so I apologize for the repetition, but ERC20.
Maybe we can read you can read the question, right, first?
No, let me see. I assume it's whether it's fungible tokens. Yes, so the ERC20 standard is only for fungible tokens, but we are also collaborating with BOUN, and in the next months, we will be able to extend the ERC20 to include the ERC1155, which also treats non-fungible tokens. Meaning, for example, for gold or for art, so these are not interchangeable. You cannot exchange a piece of art for another piece of art. These are not equally the same. So in the meantime, we're working with fungible tokens. The ERC20, as I said, is the simplest and the most straightforward standard, but we will be able to also exchange non-fungible with non-fungible tokens, I hope, in the near future. And I hope this answers the question.
Okay, very good, clear enough. Are there any questions from the audience? Otherwise, we have a 5-minute break, and I'm going to stop also the recording and then come for. Is there any other question from the audience? How to answer? Are there any tokens? Very much, Fabian.
Thank you.
I suggest that 5 minutes break, or yes, we are back 11 CT for the second of the work. I'm going to stop the recording, and I'm going to. So yes, when we share the recording, you will see two parts. The first part with tokens and consents, and the second part with the KYC and product. Okay, so let's come back in 5 minutes. Okay, 11.